everybody, Backyard Bullion here. Now today we have a very cool transatlantic discussion about precious metals with none other than Yankee Stacking, a very, very good YouTuber here in the silver community. We've got a lot to talk about, so without further ado, let's head on in for some transatlantic silver and gold ramblings.
Hey everybody, thank you so much for watching Yankee Stacking. Today I have the distinct honor and privilege of having Backyard Bullion with me on this video. I am really looking forward to it. We're going to have some awesome discussion. We're going to talk about silver and gold and what's going on in the economy, and it's going to be a lot of fun. I hope you enjoy it. And right now I am going to bring in the one and only Backyard Bullion.
Yankee, how are you?
Hey, Backyard Bullion, how are you, man?
In this crazy world we live in, we're doing all right. I hope you guys are all right on that side of the pond.
Oh, we're hanging in there, man. I want to say this is
pretty mad at the moment.
This is a transcontinental collaboration going on right here. So I apologize if there's any little glitches or sound. We're going to be being careful with our video and audio here on this call, but hopefully it'll go well.
I think it's a sign of the world being a little bit strange at the moment, because I've experienced like reductions in internet speeds going from all over the place. It seems like the world is going a little bit mad at the moment, but
very true.
Yeah,
very true.
It's so. I really like this idea of a transatlantic discussion podcast. I think that's what we agreed to kind of call it, because there's not really one topic really that we're focused on. We're going to talk about quite a lot today, I think, aren't we?
Yes.
But I thought it would be interesting to see, because I've always been fascinated with American culture, and especially when it comes to stacking and prepping. And I was I'd never considered myself a stacker or a prepper, but with the world going the way it's gone in the last year and more,
right?
You know, it just it starts ringing a lot more true, and you see what's happening in the world, and you kind of think, goodness me.
I have a split feeling.
Interesting to have
I have a feeling around that too. It's a little. I don't want to be right. I don't want to, have my prepping concerns realized. But, I'll tell you, I feel just a little vindicated. I've been prepping N95 masks, 4.5 years ago. I haven't bought a single one now because of the need for it in our medical community. But, I do feel like it's been important to do, and I'm kind of glad I did it.
I mean, as I said, we're not preppers. We're not. I mean, stacking is also like an interesting. I see myself as like preserving my wealth rather than stacking for any kind of collapse or anything like that. But it does make me glad to have all of these. When you think about how much money was just eradicated from stocks and shares and markets and everything going on in this world. So if I'm not buying tin food, I'm very glad that I'm still diversified in this stuff. So it's an interesting time. It is.
And I think, the other thing that I'm really looking forward to is really getting that international perspective. I have to admit, I'm probably a terrible American when it comes to being, U.S. centric in my videos. I sometimes feel like I need to apologize to my international subscribers and viewers because I talk a lot about the U.S. But this is going to make it very enjoyable for me to hear what it's like in Great Britain, right? You're right there in England.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think we both know that we can't talk too much about the specific reason why everything is crazy right now because of wonderful YouTube policies. So we'll avoid using the exact term for what's going on. But it's and we don't want to. I suppose this could be podcast number 2. What we're all living with in the real world these times. We want to keep it on the metals, I suppose. But there's crazy things happening, and stuff that I think a lot of people never thought they'd see in their lifetimes, including kind of silver. So if we bring it round into the metal world,
right,
Yankee, I'd sent you a couple of pointers for some discussion topics, and I think the one that everybody's going to be talking about is this stuff here. You can't see my videos off. I'll turn my video.
Yeah, let's see it here. Oh, look at him tap away there. That's gorgeous. You have beautiful
all of silver. That stuff where everybody's focus is right now, and I feel like that's and certainly for us in the UK, it's always been a difficult one because silver has so much of a premium because of taxes, taxation in the EU, which affects us in the UK, and it's just always been a bit of a bugbear for a lot of people that you buy this stuff at overspot, and then you sell it for spot when you need to. So how's the difference for us, I suppose, is silver's still very attractive because everybody thinks it's going to shoot the moon or do something crazy. But the reality is the premiums are just ridiculously high.
Right.
But for you guys, that's never really been a big factor. If you could maybe tell some of our UK viewers how you feel, you've noticed the world of silver changing for you, it'd be quite interesting to start us off.
Well, yeah, I think it is rather unique hearing about or seeing firsthand what silver premiums have gone through. It's been a struggle for people who are at least buying silver. Those that actually hold it, I think it's important to talk about the positives here. One of the reasons why silver prices went down, and actually gold did too, is because of its inherent liquidity. People needed to sell their silver and gold to some degree, especially traders needing to cover their margin calls. So it's kind of interesting to me that they perform their function. They're very liquid. They gave what the people who had it, at least in the paper markets, needed, and that is a way to quickly sell it. And that is actually what happened back in 2008 during the global financial crisis. So there's really no big shock there that it went down initially during this situation that we had. But the premiums though was a surprise to a lot of people. In 2008, it didn't do it quite like it did now. But I think the reasons are also obvious. We have had an amazing shutdown in the supply chain, all the way from miners to refiners to the mint to wholesalers, right down through the supply chain. It's been a real challenge. And what happens is the demand goes through the roof, especially for the physical, and the supply gets constrained. Supply and demand. That's basic economics. And what happened is there was this split between the paper markets, what's traded, the future contracts, and what spot is, and the price based on supply and demand. And so if you're holding, so one last thing, if you're holding silver now, if you've been stacking it for years, good for you, but you should be encouraged because the actual price has actually held.
That's what I was going to say, that there's a lot of people out there who just always focus on the spot price numbers. They always look at those raw numbers, but you can never do that, in my opinion, with silver. Gold, maybe a little bit more so, because often it's a lot of a smaller premium when you buy, certainly for us in the UK. It's a lot of a smaller premium, and when you sell, you get more value for it, really, because it's just so liquid compared with silver. And people forget that, yes, the spot price went down, but as you say, the physical price for physical silver went up. People are paying way more than they were 3 months ago when silver prices were, £14 an ounce for us here in the UK, $14.50 an ounce.
Right.
And people are paying, ridiculous premiums now. And as you say, if you held it already, I think we're in agreement here. It's really, really good. But this is what bore this idea of us doing a little podcast together. I saw your video saying you were done with silver. To a massive degree, I agree with you, because if you're looking at buying silver right now, you're putting yourself at a huge, in my opinion, potential liability, because you're buying at, for us in the UK, it would be 50% premiums. For you in the US, maybe a little bit less, but on certain things like Eagles, prices that, double spot price. And you have then to think, are these premiums gonna last? Are they gonna be the same premiums in a year's time or in 5 years' time?
Right.
Probably not. And then you're relying on that spot price again to go up.
Let me just say that video you mentioned, all done with silver, really triggered a lot of people. I think I got the most thumbs down that I've ever gotten. But it was because
Yankee,
people really
join the club, my friend.
Join the club. I would love to join your club. You have what? 23,000 subscribers, man. I'm honored to have you on this show.
20. I was at 22, isn't it? When you do this, but the thing is, Yankee, this is the thing.
All right, teach me.
Do a video that's over positive, you do a video that's overtly positive about silver, which we can do. We love silver. We talk about silver all the time, and arguably there are a lot of really good points about it. But I do think that it's right as a balanced, fair channel to present all aspects of silver. And there are negatives. But there are people who can't see that or don't want to see that.
No, I had a video before, the 3 reasons why silver sucks. That got a lot of thumbs down too, but then I followed it up with the 3 reasons silver doesn't suck. So, I mean, it really is a perspective, right?
But
I'm trying to...
The real strange thing is that people always watch the negatives. They don't watch the positives. They don't reinforce what they think they know, but they watch what other people think is opposite to them because they want to prove them wrong, or they don't believe that it's right.
There's a psychological word for that. Confirmation bias.
And my most watched video on my channel is nearly 300,000 views on why buying 1,200 ounces of silver was a bad idea, and this was filmed in 2018. And that's had a real uptick of views in the last couple of weeks with everybody at home watching YouTube. And it's interesting to look back at that and think, well, actually, when you look back at that, and this actually neatly brings us into one of our other points that we were talking about, whether or not gold is better, is you look at the silver that I bought in 2018, and you look at the prices, even with the physical premiums that are available now, it just pales into insignificance compared with gold. And I quickly turn my camera on. I know we might have issues, but I'll show you just some of the prices paid. So if you feel free to comment on what I mean, I know it's in pounds, but you can probably work out some of the equivalent dollar prices.
Move it over a little bit to your left. Yeah, there you go.
There we go.
Oh, that's beautiful. Mexican?
We're looking at, big old 50 peso. And the price for this is just, back in 2018, 1,133, they're worth 1,600 now.
Oh,
that's
you might want to
gain.
I don't want you to turn off your video, but if you're going to talk, I think you need to. But that's gorgeous.
You go and talk while we salivate over these. What do you think? I mean, because gold's gone up, silver has not necessarily gone up in the same way.
So again, I think we need to be instructed and learn from history. I don't know if when you were stacking gold or silver, my journey began in gold in 2009. My stacking journey with silver really took off in 2018. So there was this gap here. But if you look back at the global financial crisis that we had in 2008, actually specifically at February 2008, what happened? Well, in the U.S., the president at the time launched the Economic Stimulus Act of 2008. Okay, that included a tax rebate for us Americans, and money was being poured into the economy, similar to what's going on now, to try to avoid a recession. What did silver do? Well, spot price was just shy of $20 an ounce in February. And then by October, just 8 months later, it had dropped to $10. 50% of its value gone in 8 months. Then it, of course, after that, it began a 3-year bull run. But, that's amazing. Can you imagine that now? Can you imagine, what are we've been riding 18. We're down to 15, say, or something like that. Can you imagine it going to 9 on silver? So perspective, right? That's what happened. That to me is indicative of what we're seeing now. We're seeing a substantial drop in silver, although the premium still is there because there's this demand, this pent-up demand. And I think, when you think about it, silver and gold are both traditionally safe havens, but gold is far more of a safe haven, especially among nations. Silver, and this is not to bash silver, I stack a lot of it, but it is less of a safe haven, okay? It is more of a speculative asset. It's more, it's more industrial. Again, people really hate when Yankee says that because they say, no, it's coinage. What are you talking about, Yankee? It's real money. Yes, I get it.
Modern world. Every phone, every computer, every microchip, everything has this precious metal in it. It is a superconductor. It is, it is vital for the modern world that we live in. And people kind of, I think there's 2 elements of it. Some people who know that industry will know it, but then there's the hardcore stackers who just want it to become a currency again and almost sort of disbelieve that could ever be used for something else. It's coinage, surely, but the world has changed quite immeasurably since silver was used as coins in general. So yeah, there's definitely, I think there's that's one of the cultural differences. If we go back to our overarching kind of theme here, which is UK versus US culture. Like for us in the UK, we lost our silver coinage back in the late 40s. I think I can't remember the exact date, 48 or 47. But you guys still had silver in your coins and still do in circulation. You see all the coin hunters that find real silver.
Isn't that nice?
You go to the bank, you get free silver. I'd kill to have rolls and rolls of $half and hunt every day for them. I'd do it every day because it's free silver. It's mad. So there's definitely that kind of cultural thing, and you do get more, or in my opinion, I'm sure you do get more people who are aware of what silver is in the US than in the UK, which is interesting. But in the UK, gold has always been a part of this bigger world, and you have this history. I know we have you have pre-33 US gold, but we have sovereign, and that's been a mainstay of UK coin collecting and to a certain extent stacking and wealth accumulation for hundreds of years.
Right.
And so that's, I think, really quite fascinating that the cultures there are different, and we're always skewed more towards gold here in the UK, and it's always more as a coin collector and rather than a stacker, which I think is really fascinating.
Can I give you an anecdote of that? I've been talking to my local coin shop dealer, and we can talk more about how we, procure our metals soon. But, Tim, I've talked about him a lot. He's a fantastic guy. I'm actually looking over here for a text because I'm going to be going in just a few hours to pick up a couple more quarter-ounce Canadian maple leaf pieces to add to my collection. But I asked him, I said, what's the demand really like? What are you sensing? Because you're on the front lines from a retail standpoint. What are you getting? And he said that in America, the demand is starting to literally wane with silver, and it's going up with gold. He says, I'm getting less and less calls over the last couple weeks about people saying, hey, Tim, do you have any silver? What can I get? There's less than that, less than normal volume in that, and more people calling and asking about gold. I find that fascinating.
That's quite amazing. And I want to sort of echo, I think, those sentiments here in the UK, because even though we're seeing, record highs of that ratio, again, go back to the actual physical, or I should say the premiums on physical, that ratio is still actually around 80-1, where we've seen it for this last year or so. And
you're not talking spot price. People look at the spot price ratio, right? You're looking at
exactly.
Yes.
And people, exactly. So spot price ratio is 115-1 or whatever it is. Right. But actual physical prices, that if you've got $1,000 to spend, you're going to pay. And I wouldn't know exactly what number, but I've seen tens of thousands of pounds worth of business go on the Silver Forum in this last 2 weeks on gold alone. Probably 50,000 plus worth of gold has been sold on the Silver Forum, and it goes within minutes. I've seen people putting 8, 9, 10 ounces of gold up, and it sells within an hour, and people want it. But you see people putting up silver at a premium, and it stays around. It might sell in time, but it stays around. And that's really interesting, I think. And I think because that brings us, I think, onto another point which I wanted to talk about. And you mentioned it a little bit there with your local coin store dealer, Tim, that the dealers are under a lot of pressure at the moment. And that's fueling quite a lucrative second-hand market for people who need to sell privately and bypass those dealers.
Right.
How do you guys see that in the US? Is it still easy to sell to dealers right now? Because for us in the UK, pretty much every dealer has closed their doors to buying.
You mean, is it easy from
stuff to them?
Is it so you're saying, is it easy from a physical standpoint, a logistics standpoint?
Yeah.
Well, Tim's closed, technically.
Yeah.
He definitely will open the doors for people, do deals. I know I sometimes feel like it's a freaking speakeasy I'm actually going through. It's like, we'll make the deal in the parking lot. Okay, nobody say anything. But
with his trench coat over.
Right. It is kind of fun. But
you want to buy some silver?
No, I want the good stuff, man. You got any gold? So yeah, it's a challenge. But my last video, we both slapped on our masks and kind of stared at each other and giggling like, this is funny. But yeah, it is challenging. You said, is it challenging to sell? I know for one thing, Tim and other local coin shop dealers here in the States will buy your precious metals in a heartbeat. I mean, they just want it badly. They'd love to be able to have somebody, tap on their door and say, I've got a, monster box of American Silver Eagles here I'd like to sell. I think one of the people in our community, Silver Chimp, over here was selling piles of silver, or is actually the last few days. I mean, and everybody's just gobbling it up. But even the dealer, even Tim was like, well, I'll buy it, So there's a desire for our, dealers or retailers to grab as much as they can. But it is really hard for them to get it from their wholesalers. They're hunkered down. There's a lot of challenges logistically to do it. So yeah, they're definitely, if you want to sell, there's a buyer. Absolutely.
Well, there's the other interesting thing here that comes in the UK certainly, and I think probably the answer is similar in the US, that a lot of people are feeling like the dealers are almost overtly and deliberately profiteering and taking advantage of people who are, I mean, there are going to be a lot of people in this world who are going to have lost their jobs or be up against it because they're furloughed at home on reduced pay or not able to earn money. And, they maybe have to sell their metals, and the dealers are profiteering blatantly on this.
Price gouging.
How have you kind of, is there similar things happening or feelings out there that you're seeing from either from your viewers commenting or videos that you've made, and how do you feel about that situation?
There's vitriol, there's anger, there's a lot of people, especially, I have to say, those who are, been watching on the sidelines, maybe not stacking as hard in the last months and years. This has really hit hard. But again, it's a perspective. You see the spot price drop, you assume that means the price at the retail store is also going to drop, whether it's at a pawn shop or LCS or online with the big bullion dealers. And I was just on, JM Bullion, who I love, and I saw their American Eagle, their 2020s that they have in stock for $25 each. And you look at that and you're like,
gosh,
holy smokes, that's $10 over spot almost. I mean, that's like what, 33% markup or something? I don't know. It's a lot of money to pay if you, again, look at spot price. But if you look at it from what's the demand and what's the real price, I mean, in the United States, a lot of us love free market capitalism. We that's what our country was based on economically. I go on our Yankee rant here and talk about where I think it's gone, but we love that, except for when we want to buy something, right? And the demand is high and the supply is low. So I don't want to be harsh. I'm not saying that there isn't some price gouging somewhere, but I really think most of it is just supply and demand.
So I think there's two categories, isn't there? There's the as you say, the dealers have such issues getting their stock from suppliers. Mines are closing down, refineries are closing down, mints are closing down, the supply chain's interrupted with sickness and health and safety, people not being able to work. And in those situations, I have absolutely no problem with a dealer going, well, do you know what, my overheads have gone up, the unit price has gone up, so we have to charge this much for these pieces, for new pieces. But you do get a bit of a sour taste in your mouth sometimes when a dealer buys a monster box from somebody and then immediately flips it for, $10 an ounce profit. And you feel that feels like that feels wrong. But people have got to remember at the end of the day that, dealers are a business. And so I've got two heads on. I've got this, that seems horrible, but I run a business, I run a small business, and money where you can, because you don't know from month to month how businesses are going to, interact with each other and be able to trade. So there's two parts of it. I feel like, that's harsh, but I also feel, well, actually, like you say, free market capitalism, but people moan about it when it affects them. And that's something that people need to remember, that people, these dealers are businesses too. They'll have employees, they'll have supply chains which are going to be affected if they shut down, if they can't make money. And that's a big thing. The world can collapse because of this hysteria. and that's,
You know, I haven't.
I guess,
I
to
haven't
think
seen.
about.
I haven't seen what the online bullion dealers are doing with the buying and selling. Again, with Yankee, my strategy, I never sell this stuff. I just don't. I'm not in it to flip. So, well, maybe a little bit.
I'm of the same
Maybe a little
mind,
bit. So I have you have
you
your
know,
perma
like,
stack, right? So you understand how you hold on to it. But what my point was, I don't know what's going on with the online bullion dealers. I don't know what kind of inventories they're holding on to because they bought in at such a high price. But I do know from a local coin shop dealer, mine, Tim, I actually understand what he's buying, what he's paying for. So if I walked in, like you said, with my monster box, I know what I will get, and it won't be what you were just talking about. It's not going to be, oh, I'm going to buy it at spot, I'm going to flip it immediately for a $10 increase. That actually is not the case. So, you know, he will get a little bit of a profit, but he's not what you call profiteering. So I don't know. It probably ranges across coin dealers and retailers, but I haven't seen it.
Well, it's a similar thing from my end, because I'm, as you may have seen from some of our channels, we do a lot of work with the European Mint in Estonia, where we do these huge, ridiculous boxings, and that's my main supplier for the poured silver side of my business. And when prices were going down, you know, you'd be stupid not to try and take advantage of lower prices for your raw materials as a business. So when I was trying to, you end up being, you know, told, well, ultimately we can't get this for anything less than these prices, and I know that that's true, because this guy I've been working with for 3 years, he is a very clever chap. He knows that he could make lots of money profiteering, but what's the point in doing that if it's going to ruin your reputation? So he's very above board. He showed me emails from the Canadian Royal Mint, where he gets a lot of the supply. You know, a lot of my poured silver is actually Canadian silver, because it's made from silver from the Royal Canadian Mint. He shows me these, these emails from the Royal Canadian Mint that they're struggling to get hold of raw material from refineries, from mines, from suppliers, and the costs just phenomenal, and it's scary for these businesses.
I do like transparency. I do like transparency like that. And when Tim shows me his wholesale costs that he's getting, it does engender confidence, trust. You know what I'm saying? You look at that and go, oh, that's what you're paying. That's what it is up the supply chain. Okay, I get it.
Yeah,
I don't think people have that. I think too often they don't see that.
I agree completely.
You know?
And it's a really, that, as you say, it just adds to that business relationship, and I think the transparency there, as you say, he could potentially have profiteered and just said, no, actually it's going to be an extra £2 an ounce if you want to buy it on what he's paying, and he makes loads of money. But again, like, what's the point? Because you get one small deal and that's it. You lose your clients, you lose your business, and it's just not worth it.
I have a question for you about procurement. So we're talking about local coin shops. Do you have, I know you can get things online to some degree, but do you have other, and of course the forum, which is fantastic for you guys, but do you have other ways to just like meet up with people and purchase things like we do?
This is one thing that I absolutely would love to be similar to America, coin shop in every town almost, but it's just not. It's just not. The only things that you could have where you could go into town, and they're all closed right now, which is the other crazy thing, would be the equivalent of pawn shops. So you go in and they'll buy your gold, your silver. They'll have signs on the door saying, we buy coins, we sell coins, but they'll give you 80% of spot price, and they'll sell you at 50% over spot price, even for gold. And they just take advantage of walk-in customers. In the UK, it's all about online stuff, unfortunately, and the dealers. I mean, if you're close by to a dealer and you live in the same town as one, that's, there's quite a few in Birmingham. That's very historically, the jewelry quarter in Birmingham is very historically, that's where all of the gold and silver makers were at 100 years ago, and that's continued through. So if you're there, you're fine. You can just walk into town and find one, but have that. Same in London. You can pop into to Hatton Garden, which is obviously the sort of jewelry quarter of London.
Right.
But outside of pretty much Birmingham and London and one or two other major cities, you're not going to get that easy thing. So it's all done over postal services and online, and there's a lot of trust issues there. And obviously the shipping costs are added on top of that for when you're buying and selling too. And as you said as well, the forum, I guess that's probably I've been a long-term sponsor. Well, they've been a long-term sponsor of my channel, so I'll give them a little plug for anybody watching in 30 odd minutes of this podcast. That is simply the best place in the UK to buy and sell gold right now.
Wow.
And silver. It really is. That people will happily, as I said, trade £50,000 worth. I've seen probably or more go in this last 2 weeks, and that is incredible. So that's the shame, I think, for us in the UK. In the UK, we just don't have that sort of history of coin shops. There are a few really small ones.
How about just the free market of exchange? I mean, I use Facebook Marketplace, Let Go, OfferUp, these apps on my phone to in person, and of course in a public place, but in person, meet up, make an exchange. Of course, it's usually for constitutional silver, as we call it, but it can be all kinds of silver and gold. So do you have that type of interaction in the community?
There are. We have the equivalent of Craigslist. I think you guys have over there, and various Facebook marketplaces and things like that. Of course, there's eBay, but again, it's like I think there's this culture in the UK of mistrust, and certainly when it comes to I think UK stackers are very mistrustful of face-to-face meetings. You do see some people on the forum, for example, put up £2,000 worth of silver or gold and say would be happy to meet to exchange, and they get stonewalled. They get stoned, so you can hear the tumbleweed almost in the background of their boats.
Goodness.
It is funny.
Wow.
I've personally met a number of people and bought and sold silver and done. There was a video I put up a couple of years ago now. I bought 5 100-ounce bars from a chap in a car park of a pub, and I walked home 3 miles. It was like, in fact, that video had a few more tick-up views, and I had a really great comment from somebody saying it was like a video game quest. You meet in the in the tanned feather or something at dusk, and then walk home and don't try and meet not meet anyone nefarious.
Keep your eyes down,
it can be. It can be done,
yes.
But the culture here in the UK is very much like you want to be private. You want to keep people to see your face. Like both of us have faceless YouTube channels, but ultimately, like it is the privacy thing. I suppose is quite important for people these days, certainly in this modern world. And I value privacy too. But at the same time, you've always got to draw a line.
I don't think I've ever been more aware of my surroundings, and of course I think I was packing actually at the time. I do carry occasionally. You just have to pick what days I am.
So I just want to talk on that point. So that's a huge cultural difference between UK and US, so the gun culture, and I guess that's a factor, because if you're going to go meet somebody, they're probably going to think, well, if you've got in a certain state, if you've got $10,000 worth you're doing an exchange for, there's going to be some consequences if you try and screw with someone. So here in the UK, gun ownership is not quite so easy. And if you do have a shotgun license, which is fairly easy to get hold of, unless you're going out to actually use your shotgun for a legitimate reason, if you get pulled over and it's in your car, you go to prison. If you say, I'm bringing my shotgun because I'm meeting somebody to sell some gold, go to prison. There's just no two ways about it.
Yeah, just to finish the thought I was saying, it was when I was going to buy the Yankee cannon. So I was getting a full 21-ounce gold pieces, and I did go through a reputable dealer for that and tested it and all that kind of stuff. But I was rather nervous, like you were saying, coming out, looking around, like I had to get in my car and get home. It's just kind of funny that the mentality that you can have when you're exchanging things. But usually when you're doing silver, at least in the States, we're less concerned, I think, about that type of exchange, or I am at least, and in public place, obviously. We actually have places right now at the police station where I live in most towns around, where it's an exchange location, where you can actually go outside the police and just make your exchanges and feel more safe about it. I will say that there's a couple other differences between UK and US stacking that I'd love to be able to talk about with you. Maybe we can do this again, another video.
Well, have you got them on the tip of your tongue? Shall we give a teaser to someone watching to minute 35 or whatever we're at now? What did you have in mind?
I wonder sometimes if the people in the UK really understand, the focus that we have with silver, because silver is, again, something that we really stack heavily over here as well. If you're, silver, you don't have to be a silver bug either, but, silver is critical, and I don't want to shortchange it, but it has an amazing history, and I'm just wondering if, you would,
that would be cool, because we
that.
haven't really focused today on where things might go.
Right.
So perhaps we can combine.
So we can look back maybe a little bit and learn a little bit about, you mentioned, when the silver was, taken out of your coinage was debased, a little bit of the American history and why we get so passionate about this stuff, especially silver being a part of our coinage and what it means even constitutionally. And we can talk about the future, where we think it's all going.
And I love the idea in your culture as well about Fort Knox and how there are all of these conspiracy theories that it's all gone, or it's all fake, or it's all painted lead bars and all of this, and or gold-plated bars and things. And I like that idea. Whereas us in the UK, one of our prime ministers back in 2003 sold all of our gold for £300 an ounce. $450 an ounce, just gone. The whole reserve.
Wow.
And there's that cultural difference, which I think is kind of cool. So
that would be fun.
That would be kind of cool. But, who knows? The world could be a very different place in a month's time when we get around to maybe sitting down and filming something like that. But we'll endeavour to do that. Thank you. Really enjoyed it today, and for everybody who has been watching this long, because it's been a while on this podcast. Thank you. I hope you've enjoyed it. Let us know what you think down in that comment section. Let us know what you think by hitting that thumbs up button as well. It really does help both of our channels. And for those of you who are watching it on my channel as opposed to on Yankee's channel, go over to his channel and subscribe, because he's a quality chap, and love having his videos on in the background when I'm doing work in the house or silver pouring. It's really interesting. So go and sub to him. He's a quality chap. What are you on now? About 9,000 subs or something?
Yeah, I'm almost at 9,000. I am shocked by that. Again, just to have this conversation with you is quite an honor, because you're someone I've always watched and always respected. I love your pours, your rambles, your incredible videos are amazing. I enjoy it very much, and I appreciate the kind words. Thank you. Go and sub if you haven't, for some strange reason, Backyard Bullion. You're going to really enjoy his channel if you haven't checked him out yet. But thanks so much again, Backyard Bullion, for this this conversation across the pond. I hope we can do this again real soon.